lessons in iterative and incremental development, and allow learning to take place. If you go through a project and start the project from day one, after you have completed it, you would definitely do it in a different way. It means that you learn something along the way. So that is a key thing. So the last point here I want to make is basically to answer the question, how do we manage the different streams? The streams of we have the software development, we have the graphical design, sounds, and all the complexity, and how do we go about it? And I want to tell the story of a user story lifecycle. User story is basically a concept. It's a concept of what we want to do. As a user, I can, whatever, do something. And if we look at the image there below, iteration or on the timeline there, 0 is basically the time when the story is written down, or put into your issue tracking system or whatever. So this is the time when it has no details, it's just a one line. So until we first start working on the story, we need to add more details. We need to know what is the first level of things we're going to implement during the first iteration, and this is the thickness, so to speak. The requirement thickens, meaning it gets more detailed and more certain. So before the first iteration starts, we add thickness as it moves towards implementation. This means we do a rough sketch of the UI design. We select a color palette. We decide on a sound theme. Based on this, we have highly accurate estimates. We know exactly what we're going to do, and we're only going to do this rough sketch and nothing more, and we can have highly accurate estimates on that. So we implement the sketch, we reflect on it during iteration demonstrations and discussions with stakeholders. We refine the sketch. More detail is added. We add maybe flexibility, alternatives to the flow, and so on. Again, we have highly accurate estimates at the start of the second iteration. Yet more detail is added. Here maybe concerns about safety comes in, concerns about validating, etc. And again, we always have a highly accurate estimate. So the third iteration starts, and here we really start seeing the fuller picture. We are working on the lower level details on the graphical design, the pixels, the colors, and lining everything up, and usability, sexiness, and all that. So that's basically how we manage these different streams. We do it in a stepwise manner. We take each step, see where we are, refine, we learn, and this is our answer to managing this the complexity in software development. So over to Sigtryggur.
Quality. We sometimes we're lacking on quality. We are missing unit tests, and then documentation about the code. Release and deployment. We have a lot of things in the release that are done manually. We want to automate these things, and deployment that needs to be consistent when we are deploying things, that we are always deploying the same, we know exactly what we are deploying. Source control is something I think most people are using today, and that is have a single source repository. Don't store any code on different machines. Keep it at the same place. and the test environments. The test environments are often on the developers and tester computers. In the test environment, it's best to have it as close to production environment as possible. And I want to talk a little bit about how we address these things. The main function here at Better is that we have the key elements are automation, repeatability, and consistency. By doing things automatic, we get the consistency. We know if, like, if developers and team testers are doing the processes always in the same way, and we know the outcome is always the same. And the repeatability, we want to run builds, we want to test things with easy manner. Just have some script that they're executing it and running it over and over again. I have some list here that Martin Fowler has listed up regarding continuous integrations. And what we see here is that it mainly focuses on automating things. We have automating the build, automating the deployment. We need to keep the build fast and build it over and over again. When you look at this list, you are always removing the manual effort from the process. I have here some list of a picture of how it is at Better. We have the developers and QAs. The developers check the code and they commit it to the version control system. So the developers have a computer. The developers, they are compiling the code locally and running tests and see if everything works. When it commit to the version control system, then we have different. What I want to describe here is that we have the computers and we have every developer has a virtual server where we have exactly the same environment as on production. We build the code and check it in the version control system, and the build server is checking every second if it is something has changed in the code, and is building it, compiling it, running the test, and packaging it, so it will always be ready for deployment. On the build server, we always have some deployable release. Because we are running it over and over again. And the main reason for this is for the developers to have a short feedback loop. The feedback loop of this is when you run the test locally, you just know, okay, it's working on my machine. And when the build server receives it, then it's checking against all the others with all the parts of the code. And then when it has finished releasing it, then we have automatic deployment to all the test servers, these virtual servers. Like you see on this picture here, we have eliminated a lot of automatic things, like as soon as the developer checks in the code, then no manual effort is done until it is received on the test servers. But you need to have some visibility for the developers and testers if everything is working okay. And that part is what we use here. We use some tools called Bamboo, IGIA, Fisheye. This is an Atlassian project. And on the Bamboo build server, then we have a list of all the builds. We have multiple projects, we have branches in the version control system, and we are continuing. We can view here all the builds that are executed. And in JIRA, which is the